The future of online TV is here. View exclusive content from your favorite talk radio hosts and new programs that you can't see anywhere else. Visit voiceamerica.tv today.
The following program is being brought to you on the Voice America Variety Channel. For more information about our network and to check our additional show hosts and topics of interest, please visit voiceamericavariety.com. The Voice America Talk Radio Network is the worldwide leader in live Internet talk radio. Visit voiceamerica.com. The views and ideas expressed on the following program are strictly those of the host or guests and do not necessarily reflect the views and ideas held by the Voice America Talk Radio Network, its staff, and management.
Welcome to Crime Prevention 101 with host Susan Bartelstone. We're so happy you've joined us. Over the next hour, you'll learn the tips, tricks, and vital information that'll help you keep yourself confident and safe. Now, here's the host of Crime Prevention 101, Susan Bartelstone.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to the show tonight. And boy, I have such a great show tonight. I know you're going to love it. Now, I have to tell you, I, like most listeners of Crime Prevention 101, and I wager that, and millions of other folks are just drawn to crime. You know, it's kind of like a car wreck. We don't want to see a tragedy, but we can't look away. It's human nature. We read about awful murders, you know, fiction and nonfiction books. We watch crime on TV and in the movies. We sympathize with the victims. We cry with the victims, maybe even try and solve some of the crimes ourselves. And I like to listen to these old-time radio shows that you can still find on the internet, you know, from like the 40s. So anyway, tonight I thought we'd talk to a crime writer, and I've got one of the best around for you, Denny Griffin, and wait till I tell you about him. And I've also got a pretty controversial true crime blogger on by the name of Peter Hyatt. And since it's important to remember that for every murder case and every missing person case, there are survivors, the families and friends and colleagues of the victim. So I invited a woman who co-founded an important organization that aids these homicide survivors to join us. Her name is Dora Larsen, and I want everyone to know about the Support for Homicide Survivors groups. And last but not least, I've got another great personal safety product to tell you about, a backpack that has a siren alarm and flashing lights attached to it. Now, this could be a real lifesaver. Well, this is Susan Bartelstone, and you're listening to Crime Prevention 101, coming to you from the icy cold but still sizzling New York City. And if you've got a penchant for fictional or non-fictional crime, you've come to the right place tonight. So first up, let's meet well-known crime writer and author Denny Griffin, who, after a 20-year career in law enforcement and private investigation in my home state of New York, retired, moved to Las Vegas, and wrote his first crime novel 2 years later. Fast forward 16 years, and he's now written 7 murder mysteries, 4 nonfiction books, and his new book, Surviving the Mob, which is the biography of a former crime family soldier, Andrew DiDonato. Andrew was actually my guest on the show last week. And Denny also hosts an internet radio show called Crime Wire. So, Denny, welcome to Crime Prevention 101.
Thank you very much, Susan. It's a real pleasure.
You know, I did such a great interview with Andrew DiDonato last week, and the book sounded so interesting that I just had to have you on the show. So talk a little bit more about your background and how you came to pick up that pen.
Well, after I retired in 94, I wanted to write about a rather bizarre case I'd actually worked on in New York State, and I decided to try my hand at telling that story. I had no intention of making a second career out of it. I wanted to tell the one story about the investigation of a medical examiner's office. So I did. I fictionalized it, and eventually started learning that there's more to the writing business than just doing the manuscript. But I went through that whole process, finally got the book published, and it caught on, certainly not a bestseller by any stretch, but at least locally, back in central New York where I'm from, it caught on quite well, and people were telling me, geez, you ought to do another one. You ought to, you're talented. Well, I believed them, so eventually I started a second book and a third, and here I am, 11 books later.
Wow. And what are some of the other fiction books, the subjects that you wrote about?
The morgue was the first one about the medical examiner's office, and after I moved to Vegas, I wrote a trilogy featuring the male-female team of homicide detectives, Las Vegas Metro homicide detectives. And the first one of those was Killer in Pair, spelled PAIR-A-DICE, Killer in Paradise.
Ah, okay.
The next one was One Armed Bandit. And the third one that came out in 2009 was Vegas Vixen. So that's my trilogy. The other one, and I have several others which were New York State-based. One was called Red Gold. It's about a multi-million-dollar Medicaid scam and murder, and Blood Money, which is a sequel to that book.
So you were writing these fiction books based on your real-life experiences, right?
Yes.
So what made you switch then to nonfiction books? I always find that so interesting.
As much fun as I was having with the fictions, mystery thriller fiction is a very competitive genre to be in. I had no name, no credentials as an author. I was a newbie. And I felt I was treading water. I didn't know if I wanted to continue writing or not. I said maybe I should find a new hobby. And I went to a writers' conference, and I believe it was 2003. And I was telling one of the speakers during a break, I said, I don't know if you'll be seeing any more of me. I said, this might be my last hurrah. So I'm seriously thinking about giving up and moving on to something else. And she said, your background is in police and investigations. Why don't you try true crime? And she had just written the history of the Indiana State Police. And she said, anyway, after the conference, we kept in touch by email, and she gave me some guidance, and I approached the Las Vegas Metropolitan Police Department to see if they would be interested in having me do their history. And after a couple of meetings with the undersheriff and then the sheriff, an agreement was reached, and I wrote the book Policing Las Vegas, a history of law enforcement in Clark County in southern Nevada, and that was from 1905 through 2005. That book, I knew for a Sin City book, you had to have an organized crime section, so I wrote about Tony Spilatro, who was...
I was just going to actually bring that point up, because policing in Las Vegas is really, you're talking about the mob. They ran Las Vegas.
For several years, yes. And that's
for many years, I think. Maybe even still.
Well, yeah, there's some talk that they still, not exactly like the old days, in other words, with the hidden ownership and control of the casinos and so on. But if somebody told me the mob was still operating in Las Vegas, I would not be the least bit surprised.
I wouldn't be surprised either. And you've become very well known as a mob writer, right?
Yes.
Because that's what was so prevalent out there. Now, just talk very briefly. We spoke to Andrew, the subject of surviving the mob. What drew you to his story? It's really a fascinating story.
Well, I had written, after the police history book, I did another book called The Battle for Las Vegas, The Law versus the Mob, which told the true story of the Tony Spilatro era, and that was the era that the movie Casino was based on.
Okay. I love that movie, by the way.
It was,
Great
in fact, it's running again this week on one of the pay channels. Through writing that book, I met Frank Collada, who in real life was Tony Spilatro's lieutenant in Las Vegas.
Okay.
They grew up together in Chicago, and then he joined Tony in Las Vegas. And Frank entered the witness protection program. He appears in the movie Casino. At the end of the movie, when several murders take place, he's the hitman in each of those scenes.
No kidding. The real life.
He and I wrote his biography, and the title is Colada. And
okay.
Through that book, Andrew DiDonato was thinking about a book, and he did a little research, and because I had, I'm going to use the term, made my bones with Frank Colada working with a former witness protection guy, Andrew felt that I had passed a test as far as being reliable to work with and not giving him up or not, placing him in any danger. So
sure.
He reached out to me. We exchanged some phone calls and some emails and so forth, and then we agreed to
the book
do
came,
Surviving
right?
the Mob.
Well, if you missed my show last week, Surviving the Mob, it's a story of a guy who turned informant and left the mob. You've got to pick this up and read this book. It's so interesting. Now, I don't want to run out of time, Denny. Talk about the radio show Crime Wire and your new venture with Crime Wire.
Great, and before I do that, I don't want to forget, when I was listening to who you're having on as your other guests, at least Peter Hyatt is a consultant to Crime Wire. I don't know if you were aware of that.
I was
Dora
aware of
Larsen
it.
is also becoming, I believe, a consultant to Crime Wire. So two of your next guests have some affiliation.
Oh, that's wonderful. Dora never mentioned it to me. Lovely. Perfect.
Yeah, and we're really looking forward to working with Dora and
so important.
Homicide Survivors Group. Peter is invaluable, and he's on the shows periodically doing what he does, which is statement analysis. So, yes, Crime Wire, we started in last June with the idea of profiling cold cases, cold homicide cases, missing persons cases, and suspicious death cases. And by that I mean cases which may have been determined that the manner of death was accidental or suicide, when in fact they may not have been accidental or suicide. And we, for the last 10 months since that first program last June, we have profiled, we're on weekly, so 4 times a month, profiling some of these cases. And what we wanted to do, because a lot of the families that we deal with, the victims' families, don't have the financial or emotional wherewithal to keep those cold cases or suspicious death cases alive, and it takes a lot of work to try to keep the stories in the news and keep them out there so that maybe you will get new information, maybe you will get a tip or a lead that would break the case open. And it was frustrating to us on Crime Wire that after the profiling the show, that kind of was the end of it. In other words, we hoped to get some leads, we hoped to get tips and so on, but we couldn't offer any more. And so we've been thinking for quite some time about how we could expand our services. And this coming Sunday night on Blog Talk Radio, on our show, we're doing an hour special, and we're going to formally announce the creation of the Crime Wire Investigator Bureau. And we're going to introduce a new team member to Crime Wire who's going to be the bureau chief for that new venture. And we'll get into all the details Sunday. But
you'll actually maybe be able to solve some of these cold cases for people and help these grieving families. I love it. I think it's fantastic. I can't believe we're running out of time. I want to give out the website, crimewiresite.com. Right?
Exactly.
And the website for the book, Surviving the Mob?
You can go to DennisandGriffin.com. The books are all listed there with links, and also, of course, Amazon or any of the online, and it's also available in Kindle and in the Barnes & Noble Nook ebook.
All right,
reader.
Terrific. Crime Wire Investigative Bureau. You know what, Denny? It was a pleasure to have you on. Why not? Let's have you come back. We'll talk about some of the things that you're doing with the new investigative bureau. Be sure to check them out: crimewiresite.com, survivingthemob.com, dennisgriffin.com. This is Crime Prevention 101, the radio show with an optimistic perspective on a sober subject. And coming up, Every crime has its grieving survivors. My next guest knows firsthand how a murder can affect your life. She's got an inspiring story to tell, so please stay tuned.
Stimulating talk.
It gets those synapses in the brain firing really fast.
All the time. The #1 Internet talk station where your opinion counts. VoiceAmerica.com.
Hi, this is Susan Bartelstone, host of Crime Prevention 101, and I want to tell you about My Mobile Witness, a revolutionary service that transforms your camera phone into a personal safety device. My Mobile Witness believes safety is improved when you remove anonymity from dangerous scenarios. If you're in a stalking situation, for example, if you have an order of protection against someone, or if your profession places you in situations that are potentially dangerous, I want you to check out My Mobile Witness. And you parents of college students, ask the school to check out the My Mobile Witness University program with custom-tailored options aimed at keeping both students and faculty safe. Every campus could benefit from the My Mobile Witness University service. For more information, go to mymobilewitness.com.
Get ready to change your life. Achieve your dreams, become a success story, and accomplish so much more. Tune in to Life Radio with Todd Newton. It's your open access to leading authors, experts, and trainers from the world of self-improvement, hosted by one of the world's top certified life coaches and motivational speaker, Todd Newton. Achieve the highest levels of personal development in all areas of your life. Listen to Life Radio with Todd Newton, Tuesdays at 5 p.m. Eastern, 2 p.m. Pacific on the Voice America Variety Channel.
Violence, theft, drugs, graffiti, it's all part of joining a gang. In times like these, we need to protect our kids and our community from gangs. Gangs often prey on teens with low self-esteem who perform poorly in school and who seek a sense of belonging. Protect kids from gangs. Know who they're hanging out with. Encourage them to become involved in school activities. Give kids a positive alternative to gangs. To learn more, visit ncpc.org or contact your local law enforcement agency.
A message from the U.S. Department of Justice, National Crime Prevention Council, and the Ad Council.
Streaming live, the leader in Internet talk radio, VoiceAmerica.com.
You're listening to Crime Prevention 101 with Susan Bartelstone. We invite you to share your stories, tips, or suggestions for topics you'd like us to cover, and Susan will address some of these on future shows. Send your story or idea to solutions@fightsafe.com. That email address again is solutions@fightsafe.com. Now, back to Crime Prevention 101 with Susan Bartelstone.
Hello, it's Susan Bartelstone here, and there is plenty of show left, so please start tweeting about us. And don't forget that you can follow me on Twitter. You can follow me on Facebook. I'm there. So come on and join the party. I also want to remind you that we're coming to you live. So if you'd like to weigh in on the discussion or ask my next guest a question, just call us. It's 866-472-5788. Now, as I said before break, we're going to be talking about homicide tonight. And there is no handbook to tell a survivor what to do after a homicide. The people who will be entering your lives, what's going to happen in the weeks, months, years ahead, and even if the killer is caught, convicted, and sentenced, that grief certainly doesn't end there. And my next guest, Dora Larsen, knows firsthand how a murder affects your life. She and her colleague, Terry Mayborn, also a homicide survivor, have worked for years counseling others and recently formed a group called Support for Homicide Survivors. And she's going to tell us more about this group and what it does. So hi, Dora. Welcome to Crime Prevention 101.
Well, thank you, Susan. Thanks for having me on.
All right, let's talk a little bit, tell a little bit about your story and how you came to be involved counseling homicide survivors.
All right. It was in 1979 that my 10-year-old daughter, we lived in a town of about 500 people, and she was told she had this young man, 15, told her he had a pony to show her. He took her to a spot where he strangled her and raped her and threw her in a grave that he had dug 3 days before.
Mm.
And during his trial is when we found out he had a long, long criminal history of starting with, torturing and hurting small animals right up to sticking his hands down little girls' panties, and he had threatened other children, And, the state, he told them he was going to murder, and yet, they released him in that little tiny town. And, because I knew I could never have Vicky back, I wanted to do something to help others. And so I started my victim work then. And I'd start
about 30 years now, right?
Yes.
30.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah. And, I really think that the work I do has really helped me to, restore and restructure my life to where it is today, because I find that's the best way to, move on. And,
absolutely.
Yeah. And I had an organization for 12 years called Protecting All Children Together. Then I went and worked at the Illinois Department of Corrections. I started their victim services and kind of, took it easy for a little bit. And then some friends and I were talking about all the homicide survivors that don't have any information on what to expect. And that's when we came up with Support for Homicide Survivors.
And I know you're based in Illinois, but this is for anyone, correct? Anyone, anywhere?
Right. Well, yeah, what we're trying to do is start in Illinois because we know the laws in Illinois. We're just a little worried about some of the legal things in other states. Although we can help them in answering questions or, somebody to talk to, something to expect, I just thought I had no one to talk to. And I thought it was crazy for some of the things I went through. And then as I helped others, we all have these feelings and no answers.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's what we're doing now, but we said I look for us to go national someday.
Mm-hmm. All right, well, talk about some of the things that you're doing in Illinois. I know you're doing the counseling and the informational pieces, but you're also advocating for legislation.
Right. Absolutely. One of the biggest bills we're working on this year is making sure that we have a victim on the Prison Review Board. And right now, there's no one who is just there for victims. We have all kinds of different ideas coming in, sheriffs and that, the people on it now. But we want somebody who will see it from the victim's point of view. Because so many times the victims are left out of any decisions being made. And we have support in our House and in our Senate, and both parties are, working on it with us. We're also trying to put...
Is this different state by state? Because for some reason I was thinking that in New York, the victims can make an appearance and maybe even make a statement when there's like a parole hearing or something like that.
Right. Oh, yeah, we can if they've notified the Prisoner Review Board, and filled out a victim, statement. When that person is sentenced, they should sign up with their state Prison Review Board. Yes, and as victims, I've been there for clemency hearings, not only for others, but for our killer. And you can say it's with the parole, to the parole board. But when they all get together to make decisions on all of the different crimes, there should be a victim's input too.
Oh, I see. So this is not just parole. This is...
Yeah, it'd be for clemency, time cut. It's, the Prison Review Board hears a lot of different cases. And parole, we have determinate sentencing. So, so there's very few paroles right now in Illinois. They're, old-time inmates. But let's say with the people working on, allowing teenage killers to get out, they feel like if you were under the age of 18, you were a mere child and didn't know what you were doing. And that would include Vicky's killer. And so if that happens, then we probably will have parole hearings again.
Yeah. Now that is a very sticky question. I know. And in fact, that was, I think, the first show that I had you on. We were talking about juvenile sentencing.
Right.
And most states, I think, if the juvenile commits a murder, there isn't a problem about life sentencing. That it's acceptable to do that, and also in cases of like severe rape or things like that, there is still life sentencing for juvenile. But this is a very hot subject.
Oh, I know. Well, what it is, the Supreme Court came out and said that juvenile killers could be given a life sentence without parole, but that's it. In the case of a rape, or if you were, bystander, that kind of thing. But I know it's a hot subject, but so many of these juveniles, they've got all these appeals, but they have done a heinous crime.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, so they're wired wrong, and there's no rehabilitation. Victim killer, isn't even 50 yet, and he could perhaps be on the streets again. And, it's scary, and I don't want another family to go through what ours has, but most importantly, I don't want any more dead babies found in graves. And that will happen. They don't change. So, and then the other piece that go ahead.
I was going to say, no, go ahead.
Well, I was going to say, too, that we will be joining forces with several organizations to give some teeth to the victim rights. To put an amendment in that we've got it, but we need to have teeth in it to make sure that victims are given their rights. Because
Absolutely.
I'm finding these victims, they tell me what went on, and they've had no help. They aren't allowed their victim impact statements. They're never told when there's a hearing going on, and all of this should be, the victims should have a part in this, in decisions.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
So, so I think that this is extremely important what you're doing, is because when you're grieving for something, you don't have time to start investigating what should I be able to do,
Right.
You're lucky you can get yourself up in the morning probably, too.
Well, that's it. And that's the whole thing. I mean, you're just in this, like you said, grieving something terrible, like you don't even know if you can catch your next breath. And then so much is put into the hands of the victims to make decisions. And have you done this? No. And at the time, you really don't care. You just want time to grieve. Mm-hmm. And if we can help that victim through the process and stay with them and let them talk and ask questions. And, we will never lie, and we will do everything humanly possible. I mean, I think that's a promise that I've been making to victims for over 30 years. But that's what we want to do. And we will never go in and dispute what a state's attorney has said. But we can better explain it because, oftentimes the legal system is a lot of jargon that these poor parents have never even heard before.
Well,
even right down. Yeah, I'm sorry. What?
This is a fantastic group, Support for Homicide Survivors. Give out the website so that people can get more information about it.
Okay, it's www.supportforvictims or supportforhomicidesurvivors.com. And we have a website. We're on the Facebook. Yeah.
Supportforhomicidevictims.com. And you know what?
No, not the victims. I'm sorry, I messed you up there.
Supportforhomicidesurvivors.com. And
right.
And once Denny and the show gets up and going, and I know you're going to be doing your part in it, maybe we'll get you all to come back and talk a little bit about some of the cases and how you've been able to help. And just thank you so much. You've given us really, really important information.
Thank you so much for allowing us to get the news out, Susan. You do a wonderful thing with your program.
My pleasure. My pleasure.
All right.
All right.
Thank
now,
you.
when we come back, we're going to be talking about some of the high-profile cases that are floating around the crime blogosphere these days and find out what people are blogging about. So stay tuned.
Talk. That's all we do is talk. If you'd like to talk, call us toll-free right now at 1-866-472-5787. 1-866-472-5787. That's it. VoiceAmerica.com. After more than 17 years' experience teaching safety skills to thousands of women and men, crime prevention and personal safety expert Susan Bartelstone concluded that by thinking and responding quickly, ideally within 20 seconds, potentially violent criminal encounters can be prevented. Using techniques from many different disciplines and illustrated by 60 real-life examples and success stories, Susan shows how it's done in her new book, Think Fast and Prevent a Violent Crime: How to Respond to Danger in 20 Seconds or Less. Check out www.crimeprevention101.com for more information.
If you think you've seen online TV before, let us surprise you.
VoiceAmerica.tv is online now.
The leader in live internet talk radio has done it again. Multiple channels, a state-of-the-art viewing experience, live and on-demand programs streaming 24 hours a day. It's exactly what you want, when you want it.
VoiceAmerica.tv.
From health and wellness to business, sports, and everything in between. Discover our new world. Visit VoiceAmerica.tv now and experience the future of online television.
VoiceAmerica.tv.
You're walking alone. A group of people is hanging out just ahead. Suddenly, they surround you.
Hey, yo, where you going? Come here.
Before you know it, you're being robbed. It's called a pack robbery, a robbery involving a group of assailants, and it can be violent. In times like these, trust your instincts. Don't become their next victim. Avoid suspicious groups. Avoid desolate or poorly lighted areas. Be aware of your surroundings. To learn more about pack robberies, visit ncpc.org or contact your local law enforcement agency.
A message from the U.S. Department of Justice, National Crime Prevention Council, and the Ad Council.
Stimulating talk.
It gets those synapses in the brain firing really fast.
All the time. The #1 internet talk station where your opinion counts. VoiceAmerica.com.
You're listening to Crime Prevention 101 with Susan Bartelstone. We invite you to share your stories, tips, or suggestions for topics you'd like us to cover, and Susan will address some of these on future shows. Send your story or idea to solutions@fightsafe.com. That email address again is solutions@fightsafe.com. Now, back to Crime Prevention 101 with Susan Bartelstone.
Yes, this is Crime Prevention 101, and this is Susan Bartelstone. And don't forget that Crime Prevention 101 is available on iTunes. You can take us with you wherever you go. Now let's meet Peter Hyatt and take a dip into the blogosphere. So my next guest calls himself a statement analyst, and we're going to find out how he came to that. And he defines it as a way to tell the truth from deception in today's breaking news stories. Fascinating. And this comes in very handy because he also works as an investigator for law enforcement and district attorneys and for the families of missing or murdered relatives. He hosts a wonderful true crime blog. You're going to love this blog when you go to see it. And it's sometimes quite controversial. And he likes discussing the most infamous and high-profile cases like the Haley Dunn case and Casey and Kaylee Anthony case. And he's also the host of the Peter Hyatt radio show, which showcases the use of statement analysis in solving crimes. So, hi, Peter. Welcome to Crime Prevention 101.
Hi, Susan. Thanks for having me.
So now talk a little bit about statement analysis. Go into a little more detail. What is it? And I know you teach this to law enforcement, so it must be very powerful.
Well, statement analysis is the scientific study of the way we speak. It is about 3,000 years old. It's ancient. Its first known written example.
3,000 years old? Really?
King Solomon, in the Bible, was faced with a dilemma. There were two women that both gave birth to a baby boy, living together in a tent. And
sure.
Yeah, overnight one of the women rolled over and suffocated the child. And the next day, they were disputing over whose child was whom, because the woman who suffocated the child had switched them. And many people know this story from their Sunday school classes or their catechism classes, where Solomon called for the sword and said, divide the baby in half, and the mother who was the biological mother said, no, give her the baby, and Solomon said, there's your mama. What they don't recognize is that what Solomon did was he highlighted the women's arguments. He said, the one woman says, the living child is mine, the dead child is hers. But the other woman says, the dead child is hers, the living child is mine. Mm-hmm. And what this did was he highlighted that the order of which we speak has importance. And so if I ask a parent to please name for me your children, they'll likely name them in chronological order. In other words, the order has meaning. And so Solomon pronounced the two statements, and when no one got it, he called for the sword, and there he was able to highlight the instinct of the mother. That instinct of the mother is what solved the Susan Smith case. When Susan Smith had reported that a black male had carjacked her two sons and gone off with them, and police were setting up roadblocks everywhere.
I remember that, yes.
Oh, sure. She was on TV and she was crying, and people can debate whether she was crying real tears or not, and the fact of the matter is I can't tell the difference because people can cry over a movie or they can cry over real life. But they cry tears, and as she cried tears, she did something that a mother cannot do of a missing child. She spoke in the past tense of her sons. She said, my sons needed me. And so at that point, someone from the FBI had called the local police and said, hey, you can call off your roadblocks. The boys are dead and the killer's on TV crying right now. And sure enough, Susan Smith confessed. A mother can't speak of a missing child in the past tense. It's just something an instinct will allow her to do. So if a mother speaks in the past tense while a child is missing, it tells us the mother either knows or believes the child is deceased.
But that's a big difference, though, knowing and believing. You know,
sure. Well, Desiree Young is the mother of a missing 7-year-old Kyron, and she is now, after he went missing on June 4th, and she is just now coming to grips with the fact that he may be dead. But when the child first goes missing, if the mother talks of the child in past tense language, and there is no reason why she should do that, then she has a knowledge that child is dead, because it goes against every instinct within.
I see. Oh, this is very, very interesting.
We've had mothers that who have been handed the deceased child into her arms, and she will instinctively begin to rub the body. She will speak to the child. She will speak of the child in the present tense. I've seen mothers of children that have been dead 3, 4, 5 years. They still slip into present tense language. It is just almost unbearable for them to accept. So
that's true. I know that. Yes, I've seen and heard that.
I'm sorry. When a child was missing and she speaks in the past tense, she knows something. How does she know it? If the police haven't told her that the child is dead, then she's giving us guilty knowledge. Even if the police have told her that the child is likely dead, most mothers will not be able to speak in the past tense. They cannot accept it. Fathers will first, but mothers later.
And you've talked about the Kyron Horman and Desiree Young as the mother. You've talked about this on the blog. Now, give out the blog site.
It's a difficult name. It was meant as a joke at first. Seamus O'Reilly.
I am going to ask you about that name.
That was the name of a crazy dog my wife loved. Seamus O'Reilly. So it's www.
It's the name of your dog?
SeamusOreiley.blogspot.com. It's a lot easier if someone just Googles statement analysis and they'll get me.
Okay. So SeamusO'Reilly.blogspot.com is this amazing blog, and now I thought maybe because Seamus, they used to call detectives in the 40s. I thought it was maybe something to do with that, but okay. So now talk about some of the cases that you've been blogging about and that people are talking about.
Yeah, I think what's kind of crazy about it is that a mother will appear on the Nancy Grace show, and people will feel really sorry for her, and she'll talk about her missing child or her missing husband or whatever. Then they will be so touched by the story that they'll Google the next day the mother's name, and they'll land at my blog, and my blog will say, the mother is lying, she's guilty, she's killed her child, or something like that. And as they read the reasons why I state that, they say, I felt that when I was watching that. I didn't, it just didn't add up to me. It didn't pass the smell test, as Denny Griffin likes to say. And they have a sense of it. But what I do is I'll say this. These are the indicators of deception. They're scientifically applied to every case, from Amanda Knox to Casey Anthony to Billy Dunn, all over.
Yeah. What did you think? What do you think about that case, by the way? That's a fascinating case, the Amanda Knox case.
Amanda Knox,
I think she did it.
By her own words, she admitted guilt in being partaker of an assault on her roommate. She doesn't believe that she inflicted the fatal blow. And this is all from her own words. And, Susan, even if TOW is under duress, makes a false confession, the falseness of that confession is seen through statement analysis. It is as accurate as an experienced polygrapher. It's incredible. So Amanda Knox, by her own words, told us that she was involved in the murder of her roommate. I don't think she did the fatal final blow across the throat, and I'm sorry to be graphic, but as it was just recently shown, but she was involved in the assault, and she told us so. The premise of statement analysis is that it's almost impossible for someone to lie directly in an open statement when they're speaking of their own words. And what they do is they will leave out information instead. And that's how we know.
Very interesting. And she is appealing the case.
Yes. And we'll cover the appeal on the blog and based on the statements that she makes. In fact, she sent an email defending herself, and in the email she implicates herself. For instance, you and I have been speaking probably since we were 2 years old, maybe 3 years old, and we learned the word my, the pronoun, personal pronoun my. In fact, most of us learned to use the word my before we could even speak. We used it with our hands, and my dada, my baba. We knew my, and it becomes an instinct. So it's not part of our culture. It's not part of our education. My is instinctive, and what we find is that people do not take ownership of that which is not theirs. So when you tell the child to pick up his toys, and they're not mine, and then when another child picks them up, no, those are mine. O.J. Simpson said, for those of you who believe in my guilt, Stephen Truscott said, for those of you who know my victim, and this is an admission of guilt. They're taking ownership of that which they wouldn't want to, but because the mind chooses what word to use in less than a microsecond, they can't help themselves. Billy Dunn.
Hi, Denny. I just lost you for a second, so go ahead. I'm sorry.
Billy Dunn, in less than a microsecond, spoke of her daughter in the past tense. This early January, this is when the case first broke, early January, that she knew that Haley was dead. And from that time, people have now seen that she was lying. We said at the blog that she was lying about her relationship with Sean, her boyfriend. She was lying about her New Year's Eve party. And then the police affidavit came out, and it affirmed everything that statement analysis had already said. The police affidavit showed that this was true.
And there were so many markers on that case. This boyfriend is totally creepy, and they were engaged in such nefarious activities that you would suspect them anyway, I think.
Well, I have a love of acoustic guitar videos. I have acoustic guitar magazines. I have acoustic guitar bumper sticker. You can probably imagine that I have an acoustic guitar.
I can.
When someone has an interest in something to the point where they have all sorts of literature, what they're interested in is what brings them satisfaction. And Sean used a terrible word when he talked about the literature and the material that he has, that bloodlust and gutting of deers. Billy said about things that they read. Sean said things that he looked at. What we look at is pornography is looked at, it's not read. And for Sean, I think that bloodlust is something that turns him on, and that is something that he's been dreaming about all his life. He's a grown man, yet he wears the mask to scare people.
And that's a horrible mask. You have a picture of it on the blog site. My God.
And he didn't say that he only wears it on Halloween. He wants you to interpret that, but what we do is we listen to what he tells us, and we don't interpret. We actually listen to what he says rather than what we politely think he said. Mm-hmm. And he said, I don't wear it just on Halloween. And he enjoys scaring people, and he enjoys bloodlust, and he's obsessed with these things. He threatened to kill Haley, and I think the police are going to prove that he made good on his threat.
Well, Peter, this is so interesting. This blog is really interesting. You got to make sure you check this out. Seamus O'Reilly, SEAMUSORILY.blogspot.com. You're also going to see him on the Investigative Crime Wire Bureau. He's working with Denny Griffin, my previous guest, and Dora Larsen, my previous guest. It's a pleasure to have you, and, you know, I hope you'll come back, too, especially when there are some new developments in these cases. We can talk more about statement analysis. It was very, very interesting.
Thanks so much, Susan.
My pleasure. And you know what? This is Crime Prevention 101. Stay right where you are. When we come back, I've got a great personal safety product to tell you about that could be a real lifesaver for your child.
Talk, talk, talk. That's all we do is talk. If you'd like to talk, call us toll-free right now at 1-866-472-5787. 1-866-472-5787.
That's it.
VoiceAmerica.com.
Hi, this is Susan Bartelstone, host of Crime Prevention 101. And I want to tell you about My Mobile Witness, a revolutionary service that transforms your camera phone into a personal safety device. My Mobile Witness believes safety is improved when you remove anonymity from dangerous scenarios. If you're in a stalking situation, for example, if you have an order of protection against someone, or if your profession places you in situations that are potentially dangerous, I want you to check out My Mobile Witness. And you parents of college students, ask the school to check out the My Mobile Witness University program with custom-tailored options aimed at keeping both students and faculty safe. Every campus could benefit from the My Mobile Witness University service. For more information, go to mymobilewitness.com.
Every day, people are afraid to report violent crimes. In times like these, choosing to report a crime or helping the police can be a difficult decision. A no-snitching culture has sprung up in our communities, making it unpopular and sometimes even dangerous to report a crime. Do the right thing by calling 911 or your local crime tip line. If you're the victim of a crime, report it. If you know about a crime, report it. To learn more about how to do the right thing, visit ncpc.org or contact your local law enforcement agency.
A message from the U.S. Department of Justice, National Crime Prevention Council, and the Ad Council.
After more than 17 years' experience teaching safety skills to thousands of women and men, crime prevention and personal safety expert Susan Bartelstone concluded that by thinking and responding quickly, ideally within 20 seconds, potentially violent criminal encounters can be prevented. Using techniques from many different disciplines and illustrated by 60 real-life examples and success stories, Susan shows how it's done in her new book, Think Fast and Prevent a Violent Crime: How to Respond to Danger in 20 Seconds or Less. Check out www.crimeprevention101.com for more information. The Internet's #1 talk station. #1 talk station. VoiceAmerica.com.
You're listening to Crime Prevention 101 with Susan Bartelstone. We invite you to share your stories, tips, or suggestions for topics you'd like us to cover, and Susan will address some of these on future shows. Send your story or idea to solutions@fightsafe.com. That email address again is solutions@fightsafe.com. Now, back to Crime Prevention 101 with Susan Bartelstone.
Hello again. This is Susan Bartelstone. And remember, if you would like more information about the show topics, And my wonderful guests, I'll be posting links to all of them on my blog, crimeprevention101.com. All right, now let's find out about the iSafe Siren backpack. Now, we all know about the dangers that kids face these days. You know, there's abductions. There are also bullying assaults. Or what if your child becomes lost or trapped somewhere, lost in the shopping mall? What could they do? Now, here's an idea for you that could be life-saving. And I want to introduce you to the inventor, Edric Sizemore. Edric, welcome to Crime Prevention 101, and tell us about the iSafe Siren backpack.
Hello, Susan. How are you doing? Yes,
pleasure.
iSafe backpacks appear to look just like ordinary bags, except they're equipped with a personal alarm system. It's easy to activate. In a split second, the user can activate two 125 decibel sirens and a high-intensity strobe light simultaneously to attract attention to a crisis situation. Not only do we do backpacks, we also do messenger bags, and we do collegiate laptop bags.
So this is something that an adult could also take advantage of too. And where is the alarm? It's something you can activate it, right? You have to hand activate it.
Absolutely. You just simply lift up the safety flap and you pull this rip cord. When you pull the cord, the pin disengages from the switch. It's in activation mode. To deactivate it, you just simply reinsert the pin. What's beautiful about this is that it's not loud to the user, because where the system is located in the bag, the sirens go out and away to attract attention, immediate attention. So it doesn't sound loud to the user, but it signals people that are standing nearby.
And it also has a visual signal too, right?
Yes, that's the high-intensity strobe light that can be seen up to 400 yards away, yes.
I love it. So for any of those situations that we talked about, abductions, bullying attacks, this child can signal that he's in trouble. Now,
absolutely.
How many different...
In fact, in the Sarasota, Florida area in 2009, it actually helped save a girl. She was in sixth grade from bullies. She was trapped in a locker room. She had our bag on. She activated it, startled the bullies, and subsequently teachers and coaches came in, and they expelled the kids from school. Yes.
Fabulous. And, one of the other things we used to teach, and I'm an old self-defense teacher, if you stick something that's loud, like an alarm or personal alarm or whatever, in somebody's ear, you've got a weapon. So
absolutely.
That backpack, it will rupture the eardrum. So that backpack not only attract attention, but you can use it to fight somebody off if you can shove that alarm right up close to their ear.
Absolutely. I love that idea, yes.
How many different models do you have? And they're really pretty, too. They're very nice.
Right now, we just introduced some printed bags for the young girls, but right now we have about 11 different styles. And we're developing a tote bag, a computer tote bag for women, because you have professionals that get off second shift, third shift, and they have personal safety concerns when they walk to their cars. So we're going to launch that this year.
And what's the price range for the products?
The price range is from $59.99 up to about $100.
So that's really pretty reasonable, for this kind of a safety device, I think. And again, it's very practical. You put a lot of stuff in there.
Yes, thank you. We wanted to come out with something that's effective and looks appealing in the marketplace also.
Now, how can people order this product?
Okay. They can go to one of two websites. They can go to Amazon.com or they can go to iSafe, that's ISAFE, bags with an S.com. We have a lot of demonstration footage, and they can order on those two websites.
There's a wonderful little video that I actually put on my crimeprevention101.com blog, or I'm getting ready to put it on there, which shows exactly how it works. So, and I didn't realize you could get it through Amazon. That is terrific.
Yes, and soon we'll be in retail. Yes.
Okay, well, Edric, thank you so much. Appreciate you coming on the show and telling us about it.
Thank you for having me.
It is absolutely my pleasure. The iSafe, and it's a little I-S-A-F-E backpack. All right, well, you know what? That's a wrap for now. So please don't forget that we always love to hear from you. By all means, please post your comments and suggestions on my blog, crimeprevention101.com. Tell your friends about us. And you and I will be doing this again next week, same time, same place. And it'd be a crime not to listen. So stay tuned and stay safe.
We hope you got some useful information and inspiration this week on Crime Prevention 101. Susan Bartelstone invites you to join us again next Wednesday at 5 p.m. Pacific and 8 p.m. Eastern Time here on Voice America. If you want to learn more about Susan's guests, sign up for her newsletter, or find out about upcoming teleseminars and workshops, go to www.crimeprevention101.com today. Have a great week and a safe week.